got all kinds of voter fraud, corruption. We have ineligible voters, whether they be non-citizens or non-residents in a given state. You have ballot harvesting, you have ballot malfeasance. I don't know what you'd even call it, where you have the poll workers allegedly committing voter fraud. Because based on the video that I'm going to show you, those poll workers are filling out ballots, and it seems when you watch the video, it's just the same ballot over and over again. They're just filling it out, the same one. And that's just, that's just the tip of the iceberg here, because we have software glitches that are happening in many states. At least when we look at states like Georgia, they're having issues with the software. You look at states like Michigan, issues with the software. Now you're potentially looking at a 6,000 vote swing. Now, this is just in Michigan, and this is just one example of many odd goings on that have happened in Michigan, but there's potentially a 6,000 vote swing that's going to go from Biden to Trump. And these are all allegations. There are odd goings on going on. So you have Michigan, you have Georgia, you have Pennsylvania. Now mind you, Pennsylvania has voter fraud, but this is a totally different kind of voter fraud. You have USPS workers that are on the record now. Originally, it was whistleblowers that had retained their anonymity, but that has now changed. You can check that out on Project Veritas. They have the USPS workers, I believe there's 2 of them, both on the record, stating what happened, when it happened, and who told them to do it. And the thing that they were told to do was to find all ballots that had not been processed yet by the Postal Service. Now, this is after the 3rd. And they were to find these ballots and date their mailing for the 3rd, so that they would count. They would count ballots that were ineligible to count for the election.
There was backdating going on, and there are direct witnesses for that, but I'm sure you'll call that not evidence. About it, we have a very serious problem with backdating of ballots, including 4 witnesses now who are testifying to that. Whether that becomes part of this lawsuit or it's something separate.
Now, it doesn't sound like a big deal. It doesn't sound like a huge issue. But the thing is we have this process in place for a reason. These criteria that we have, these restrictions that we have, they're not meant to suppress a vote, but they're meant to just maintain the integrity of an election, to make sure that the people that are voting are authorized to vote and are eligible to vote, and that the vote is received on time, so that we, the American public, can receive an answer for the election results expediently. We have examples of non-citizens voting in many states. And one such example, which I'm going to show here, is 19 non-citizens voting in 2016 in North Carolina. Now, this isn't a big deal now, but it just shows you that this isn't new. And this is something that Donald Trump brought up, even though he won the previous election. I don't know if he's won yet or not for this current election for 2020. But in 2016, even when he won, he opened up or established a committee to look into voter fraud. And some of the states that they identified voter fraud as having occurred is North Carolina, I believe California, Pennsylvania. So we have non-citizens voting. Now, and then you have the other side of the aisle, claiming that this isn't a widespread issue, but they never say that it's not an issue. They just say that it's not a widespread issue, which is kind of a fun doublespeak thing that they're doing. Anyone who doesn't know doublespeak, essentially they're just playing word games to say that it's not widespread. They know that it's a problem, but when they use an adjective like widespread to explain it, then it's a qualifier that doesn't have any real meaning. So that, later on, you might think widespread is less than 1%. It could be, 0.25%, which on a population of 330 million is a massive amount of people. They might think widespread is 10%, which is a ridiculous amount of people. And it could even be higher than that, because there's no established unit of measurement. But that's not the biggest issue involved. The issue truly is just that that's their explanation, is widespread voter fraud. Not that it doesn't exist at all. Not that there's an established measurement for how much is acceptable. It's just not widespread. Now you have other issues, because you have in places like in California, you have non-citizens being able to vote. Not that it was on purpose, but when they register for different things, because those communities allow non-citizens to register for various things. And I'm not against that completely, as long as they're working on the books and paying into the system like the rest of us. I'm not fully against it, because then they're still supporting the system that we all support. And, you know, everyone here is here for the American dream. It doesn't matter what country you're from, hopefully. I mean, some people are here to ruin it. But most of us, pretty much all of us, want this country to prosper just like we want ourselves to prosper and our friends and family to prosper. It doesn't matter where you're from. Call me crazy. But going back to Trump, and not so much going back to Trump, but going back to the election as a whole. So we have voter glitches, we have voter fraud, we have ballot harvesting, we have poll workers essentially cheating the system when they're transferring votes from damaged ballots onto new ballots.
This lady is marking the ballots. I filmed her a half hour ago doing 6, and she's still working at it. Let's stamp it, received, and let's fill in our 6 blanks. All at the top of the tickets on each one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's a security guard right there who's watching her. The cops are in on it. Disgusting.
But there's no context involved here, so you just have to take it with a grain of salt. You have to understand that this may or may not mean anything, but nothing does until proven in the court of law. So we're waiting to see, you know, what's going to pan out from the legal actions being filed by the Trump campaign, by the Biden campaign, by the GOP.
If all this wasn't enough, in Antrim County, ballots were counted for Democrats that were meant for Republicans, causing a 6,000 vote swing against our candidates. The county clerk came forward and said tabulating software glitched and caused a miscalculation of the votes. Since then, we have now discovered that 47 counties use this same software in the same capacity.
Claiming thousands and thousands of votes that were meant to go to Trump actually went to Biden. The biggest thing that we're seeing is on the grand scale. We saw some interesting things happen. We saw votes changing swiftly through the night. And I remember I was up late, very late on election night, watching the polling, watching the live feed, waiting to see what was going to change, what states were going red, going blue, what have you. And when I woke up in the morning, President Trump was behind in Michigan. So sometime at night in Michigan, you saw votes being removed from the candidates on both sides. You saw it happening on Biden's campaign. You saw it happening on the Trump campaign. You also saw the 138,000 votes that went for one and 0 for the other, which is statistically practically impossible. And as you see here, CBN News calls this a mess in Michigan, saying that the glitch turns a red county blue, plus 138,000 sudden votes for Biden. Now, whether this was a glitch or not, this needs to be addressed. This is just one of many. Then you see an article here, Trump's ballot fraud allegations embellished and not widespread. Experts. That's literally the title of this article. And once again, like I said before, they say that this is not a widespread issue, but they don't quantify what the issue is. They don't give you benchmarks. They don't give you metrics. They don't tell you what percentage of the votes in various states and counties are potentially fraudulent. It's just a bold claim with no metrics. It's not widespread. There's enough evidence, whether it be anecdotal, whether it be video evidence that may or may not be verified, whether it's whistleblowers that have come forward from the USPS, or other residents in the area that are coming forward and saying that strange things were happening when they went to vote, or they saw strange things occurring near them from other people voting. So we need to take this into account. We need to do a thorough investigation. We just need to make sure that we have a fair and honest election system, because if we don't, the rest is going to fall apart. Because if we as a whole, we as an entire country, if we don't feel confident in the election process, if we leave even a single stone unturned in this investigation, one side will feel slighted. If Trump won, the Biden supporters would feel cheated. If Biden won, the Trump supporters would feel cheated. So at this point, because there's so many strange circumstances happening, a full and very thorough investigation is required. Otherwise, it's just another match lit, getting ready to launch off civil war. I want to see a fair and honest election. I want all the data to be reviewed. I want all the votes to be analyzed. I want any states that have had a potential fraud, cheating, and it's been documented in any way, whether it's third party or direct from the election officials, I want it to be investigated, whether it be a recount or not. I want something to happen just to ensure that we're doing our job, that we're making sure that this is a good system. If you see anything, notify someone in your state, notify the AG or the local police in your area, notify someone, make sure that it's being taken care of, because whether or not you're for or against a candidate, you wouldn't want the other side to be able to cheat you. So it doesn't matter who you're for and who you're against, because you just have to think of it. If you were on the wrong end of this, how would you feel? This is Alex with LWS. I'm signing off. You can catch me here again soon. I'll talk to you when I get back home next week. Have a good one.